Welcome to our Bazaar, a podcast that chats with artists of all types to explore the depths of creativity. Brought to you by the Alternative Gallery. We'll be releasing new episodes every Wednesday with bonus episodes dropping randomly. If you like what you're hearing, you can support this podcast by going to thealternativegallery.com and clicking on the podcast tab. I'm your host, Brandon Wonder, Creative Director of the Alternative Gallery, a non-profit arts organization in Allentown, PA, run through the efforts of dedicated volunteers. On this episode of our Bazaar, we'll be chatting with Peter Italiano, a photographer from right here in the Lehigh Valley. Peter has been working as a professional photographer for over 30 years, focusing mainly on fashion and glamour, and having his images published in various magazines around the world. You can view Peter's work by visiting his website, peteritalianophotography.com. Peter will be having an exhibition of his solo work opening on Thursday, September 26th at the Golden Era Gallery located inside the Historic Americus Hotel in downtown Allentown. We'll be chatting all about that show as well as much more on today's episode. Hello, Peter. Welcome to our Bazaar.
Hello, Brandon. How are you?
So great to have you because we never see each other, ever.
Sure.
So you are officially the first episode of our second season.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Unexpected summer hiatus. How do you feel about being the premiere episode of the new season?
That's awesome.
You deserve it, man. You do incredible work, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And I know you have a big exhibition coming up, which we're definitely going to get into and talk about all the fine details. But first, I wanted to talk about maybe your early days with photography. I know you've been doing it professionally for a long time now. How did you first get started? Was it something you always had a passion for and pursued?
No, not really. I was a musician back in high school, and we basically played in bands, my brother and I, for a long time. And we were so big into music and rock and all that stuff, and wound up going to a lot of concerts, obviously. I mean, we went to a concert literally every week. And I had a good friend named John who was into photography a little bit, and he had some equipment at home, and he had a dark room set up. And he decided that one day we were going to go to a show and shoot it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it with you.
Never really had experience with a camera prior to this?
Not really, no. He showed me kind of a quick basic stuff to go through, and it happened to be a Rolling Stones concert.
What?
Yeah. So we shot the entire show, and after the show, we went back to his house, developed all the film, printed out hundreds of copies, went back the next night and sold them all.
Wow. At the Stone show?
At the Stone show.
They were playing 2 nights?
It was 3 nights.
Wow.
This was back in the day when, bands did.
How much were tickets? Do you remember, roughly?
Cheap.
Few bucks?
Like $15 or something like that.
Killing me.
Yeah. So we started doing that ongoing, and we made a lot of money, and I got hooked. I just got hooked into shooting.
So right off the bat, you not only did the photography aspect, but the printmaking aspect.
Yeah.
And people responded to those prints.
Yeah, they bought them. They bought them all. It was about 200 prints at that first show at $10 a piece.
I think you and I need to start doing this again. Got a place we can print some stuff.
Yeah, no, really. It was pretty crazy because we started, going to a lot of different shows like Zeppelin and Queen and Bowie and all this stuff.
Wow. Do you still have some of these negatives or prints?
I lost all of the stuff. I mean, most of it on one of my moves. And it sucks because there was so much good stuff in there.
Do you think maybe it's still floating around in a box somewhere that...
I don't know.
What about your friend? Does he have anything?
He passed away recently, in the last couple of years. So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I haven't... I'm sure he probably might have stuff laying around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe reach out to his family. You never know.
Yeah. No, I know his family very well.
You never know, because I'm sure they would love for his work to be seen.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can make an exhibition out of that, because that sounds like some world-class stuff.
It was pretty epic.
I mean, think about how many exhibitions you see in museums and blue-chip high-end galleries that are like, retrospective of these unseen photographs from rock history.
Right.
And you started with the Stones. That is total bullshit, man.
It was crazy.
How do you not do photography, then immediately your first subject is the greatest rock and roll band of all time?
Well, the thing is, in those days, anybody can walk in with a camera with, long lenses on, and nobody cared.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
shoot the entire show, and nobody gave a shit.
Different world, man.
Yeah, these days, you get the first 3 songs in the pit, and
Yeah.
nobody can bring in a camera except for their phones or whatever. But yeah, I mean, with over the last, I'd say from 2013 to 2015, I started shooting a lot more rock shows,
Interesting.
and with the Morning Call, actually.
Really cool.
And
Yeah, I do remember you doing that for a while.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
and that was kind of fun to do. It was kind of like nostalgic.
Well,
I
you
guess.
go out. You go out to Music Fest every year,
Yeah.
and you shoot some of that as well
yeah,
for fun.
For fun, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I shot a lot of that stuff. It was kind of fun to do.
Well, if anyone from the Rolling Stones camp is listening and wants to bring Peter on to shoot some stuff, he is a world-class photographer. So what were the next steps then from there?
Well, I think what wound up happening was I had gone to see an exhibition that a friend of mine had got me to go with him to, and it was actually Richard Avedon at the Guggenheim. And, I knew who he was, wasn't real familiar with his work, but I went to this exhibition, and the thing just blew my mind. And
Large exhibition, I imagine.
it was amazing. I mean, he had pieces that had to be 7 feet tall.
Wow.
You know what the Guggenheim is like.
Yeah, they have high ceilings.
And, these images were just amazing. And it was a lot of his portraiture work. And I started following what he does. And I saw him coming up in Vogue magazine just every single month. He was just loaded in Vogue magazine and all these other magazines. And I started getting into looking at getting a studio because I knew at that point that that's what I wanted to do. And sure enough, within a couple of months, I was able to get a space, and with a couple of guys, we started shooting. We started learning how to light.
Where was this?
This was in Staten Island.
Staten Island, where you grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got the studio together, and we just started learning how to light, learning how to work with people. And it's kind of what's happening here in what I've done here for the last 10 years is working with local talent. And it's kind of a throwback what I'm doing now to what I did then.
Nice.
But at that point, I was learning.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of know now what I'm doing somewhat.
You were what, in your early 20s then?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. Did you go to college?
I did.
Yeah. What did you study in college?
I did art history at the community college in Staten Island, then went on to further education at NYU and the International Center of Photography.
Yeah, we were talking about that recently where you took some classes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's amazing how New York continues to be this thread that weaves in and out of your life. Because even
Yeah.
now your daughter
Is back in Brooklyn, yeah.
doing fashion design, correct?
No, she's actually in jewelry.
She switched.
No, she's been.
Oh, okay. I thought she was doing fashion.
No, she was going to go to FIT. She thought about it, but she didn't.
She changed her mind.
Yeah.
So now she's following in Mama's footsteps.
Pretty much.
With the jewelry.
Yeah.
She's going to come back and work in a ASPA running the shop.
I don't think so. I don't think she'll come back here.
So after you got your studio, did things like become more official? Did this become your full-time job?
It didn't really become a full-time job until later on, but it was an opportunity for me to really figure out what I wanted to do. I started not too long after. I started getting actual work through it. One of the first jobs that I did was it was a weekly fashion spread for this New Jersey magazine called The Aquarian, and we did that for about a year, which was kind of fun. I mean, it was my first introduction into actually publishing fashion.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And later on, I had gotten a really good gig with Elite Models in New York, shooting for the New Faces division.
So doing headshots and...
No, we were shooting full fashion sets.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was pretty awesome.
That's a huge step up there.
It was, and I really enjoy doing that because these are all new models that, really haven't had much experience in the business.
So you're all kind of figuring it out together.
Yeah.
Just like your buddies.
Yeah.
And were your buddies a part of that gig with you?
No, they weren't. That
so
was
this was your kind
later.
of you taking off as a solo artist.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
But did you keep the studio at that time?
No, I was in a different studio at that time in Manhattan.
Wow.
So
amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how much a studio would cost in Manhattan these days.
Well, in those days, yeah. In these days, you probably couldn't touch it.
Yeah, you would need to be like 10, bringing in like 10 figures a year to.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of.
So that was your first exposure really to the fashion industry then?
Yes.
In the fashion world?
Yeah.
Were you still shooting concerts at this point, or were you just?
No, I pretty much moved out of that because I was concentrating mostly on studio.
Yeah.
And just getting that under my belt. It's like lighting technique is just crazy in the studio.
And lighting is everything when it comes to photography.
Well, yeah, and I wasn't very big on natural light. I mean, I did some, but I was always the kind of person that liked to have control over the shoot. And when you're in natural light, you don't have control.
Zero. You're at the mercy of the elements.
Yeah, exactly. So, I learned strobe pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Working with strobes. I very rarely used continuous light. So.
Well, and to this day, you still use strobe.
Yeah.
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 And I'm the opposite. I like the continuous light.
Yeah, I know. But especially if you're doing video, of course.
But I think even with still images, I like continuous, but I think it's because I came from the video and filmmaking side of things. So I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Stuff just got too hot.
Yeah. But the thing is, too, you were saying how you weren't really shooting concerts anymore. From my experience and also with talking with a lot of artists over the years, once you kind of start taking your hobby and making it your job, I think those elements that you do outside of that kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
So maybe even if you wanted to continue photographing concerts, it's like, I've been shooting all day. If I go to a concert, I just want to chill and hang out and enjoy myself.
Yeah. I mean, I still went to concerts, didn't shoot very much.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you were still going, but you weren't. So what's the most recent concert you've been to that you can recall?
Recent? Who did I go see last? It was with my daughter, actually. We went to see The Garden.
Okay.
In Philly. It was a pretty crazy show.
I've heard of them. I'm not really familiar with them, but I've definitely heard the name.
Yeah, the most recent shows I've been with are when I was taking my daughter to the shows. Like, who was that? I can't even think of the names.
I know the Stones just played in Philly in June, and I wanted to go so bad.
Yeah.
But tickets were like, for decent tickets, they started like $400.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I want, but so badly to see Mick and Keith Richards while we still can go see them.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are in their early 80s still like rocking it, man.
Yeah.
They got the energy on stage yet too, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So we kind of went through your first photography jobs. How long were you with that initial company doing those full fashion shoots? Was that like a multi-year gig?
It was about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you go from there?
From there, well, this is interesting because I had gotten into working art collecting industry.
Wow, what a jump.
Fine arts. I started photographing artwork.
Wow. Which is one of the things you do here with us now.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
And I was doing a lot with large format Polaroids.
Wow.
Which was very
like
interesting.
8x10?
Yeah, 8x10 Polaroids. And I did that for a good number of years, probably like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
In 2 separate companies, sold art, fine art. And
so this was stuff that was going out to auction, essentially?
No, it was mail order. It was people,
Really?
yeah, it was people buying art through the mail. It was,
Mail order fine art?
yeah, and we were selling, well, they were selling like Renoirs and Rembrandts and stuff like that.
Originals?
Prints.
Oh, prints.
Yeah, prints, all prints.
Wow.
And it was very interesting, that industry.
Well, and you got to utilize part of your studies from college.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is part of the reason you even got that gig.
Yeah, it is. From that point, after doing that for a number of years, I had gotten into shooting jewelry, which is still, I do a lot of that now.
One of the things that haunts you.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? It's bread and butter for me.
It pays the bills, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to, you can just sit here and do it. And again, with product photography, you have to have controlled lighting.
Yes.
You can't be doing no natural
That's right.
lighting. Yeah.
I mean, my clients, I have clients all over the country that send the stuff to me, and I shoot it and send it back.
That's
And
awesome.
Yeah, it's a sweet gig.
Do you ever? I know sometimes you shoot them on models.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one particular client that likes to get everything shot on model. And these guys, they send me 200 pieces at a time.
Wow.
And I shoot them all individually. Then I got to bring the models in and shoot them all on models, which is kind of great. I mean, it's a great gig. But I had gotten into the jewelry industry shooting for catalog.
So you went from fashion to art and jewelry in a matter of a few years.
Yeah, still doing kind of the same stuff I was doing, in the studio with the models and things like that, but not on a continuous basis.
Sure.
The jewelry thing, I was shooting for catalog, and these guys were paying this one guy to shoot everything on 8x10 film, process it, and then digitize it, and then create catalogs out of that. And it was costing them a fortune.
Digitizing back then, I can imagine.
I went in there and literally put a digital workflow in and did everything in-house. And we cut the cost of photography.
Oh, because you were outsourcing the scanning.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we saved like thousands and thousands of dollars in producing those catalogs.
I hope they gave you a raise.
Oh, no, they paid me very well.
Awesome. Well, and I know eventually you ended up in Connecticut and your workspace was there.
Yes.
Why did you eventually jump to Connecticut?
Well, that's where this company moved to, and they needed me close by. So
Gotcha.
We moved to Connecticut. I did that for a very long time with this company, and we just produced 3 catalogs a year. In big books. I mean, they were 300, 400-page books.
And did you stop doing that because you got sick of it, or did they end up not doing that any longer as the company?
Yeah, the company closed down in 2012 or so, 2011.
And that's about when you moved down here?
We moved here in 2013.
2013, yeah.
It was Jill wanted to get close to her family.
Sure.
And
you guys found this place, the cigar factory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We started in here together. Actually, in the same room.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, you were sharing the space, and then she outgrew it and eventually got her own retail space over in Emmaus.
Correct.
And then you took over.
Yeah.
And then you.
Rest is history.
Yeah. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, it's 10 years. Oh, well, it's in my 11th year now.
11 years, yeah. Yeah, because 2013 you started, Going on your 12th year already.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
What has that 10 years been like here? Because I know this is kind of, the heart of the exhibition that you're putting on together, which is called Decade.
Correct.
It's about the last 10 years of what you've shot here in your studio at the cigar factory.
That's correct.
So what has the experience been like here? I'm curious.
Experience has been amazing for me. I couldn't live without having a studio space. When we first moved here, I was still shooting stuff for clients, jewelry pieces for clients, and I had to set up in my garage for that time period that we didn't have a place, or I didn't have a place to shoot. And coming in here was just an amazing situation for me because it gave me the opportunity to set up for products, set up for commercial stuff, and in the same time, be able to set up for shooting models and shooting dancers and stuff like that. And that was really, really something that just made me so happy.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the added benefits here is it's not just a studio workspace, but you have all these other elements going on.
Yeah.
Like, the open houses that we have and the concerts and exhibitions and things like that, which you wouldn't get at most places that have studios.
No.
And I think that's what attracts so many artists to wanting to be a part of artist communities like this place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the first probably, right prior to COVID, obviously, this was the most fun place to be at.
Yeah. Yeah, we were closed down for about 2 years because of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I was still able to come in every day and do my work and, concentrate on the product photography because there wasn't a lot of people coming in and out of the building.
Well, and so many people moved away too.
Yeah.
Everything was reshuffled in those, few years there.
It was so weird. But the good part about it was that I was very busy throughout that entire situation.
With jewelry, yeah, because everyone was online buying stuff.
This is the thing, was that I would say 90% of my clients were rushing to get their stuff online.
Wow.
Because they didn't have any storefronts to sell out of.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All their customers, all their retail customers were not ordering stuff because all their shops were closed down.
Yeah, they're brick and mortar shops.
Yeah. So they were all rushing to get their stuff online.
So massive demand for your services.
Yeah, and I was shooting every day hundreds and hundreds of pieces.
Yeah, I remember you were here all the time shooting stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But thank God for it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's been a slow comeback for this place since the pandemic, but that's both good and bad, because the good nip for me is that we're attempting to build something here that lasts.
Right.
And I want to do it right. I want to build a foundation properly. And you now, having been here over a decade, you've seen many of the problems we face.
Yep.
With the building.
Yep.
With the neighborhood at times.
Yep.
With the city at times.
Yeah.
And, again, with the building being owned by a company out in New York, they're not on site. They don't see the problems. They don't have to deal with it firsthand.
Right.
It's been a major battle.
Yeah, no, I
And
agree.
I think lately we've been able to kind of get past some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just spent 3 weeks on the roof.
Right.
Which is that's definitely, even though I'm no roofer,
Right.
I somehow did a better job than other roofing companies that have come in, because they're trying to get it done as fast as possible, move on.
Right.
I'm actually putting the attention and care because I don't want a single drop of water coming in. I want it to look nice.
No, I agree.
I know that they're not going to bring in the world's best roofer next time it needs to be fixed, so I'm trying to do as good of a job as possible. And I think now we're really setting it up that we can keep this going and keep it growing. We got the resident artists here.
Right.
How great has that been?
It's pretty awesome.
Breathing
actually.
new life back into the place.
That's so cool because, I got to meet all of them, and they're all awesome people.
Yeah, all very serious. And you know me, man, I don't screw around.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring in people that are going to waste my time and take away from this. And, sometimes it's hard to find in the arts because obviously, as an artist myself and running an arts organization, we want to encourage people to be creative and to be exploratory and to be an individual.
Yeah.
But I feel like too often in the arts, at least in the United States, they're putting the individual before what's best for the greater good.
Right.
And, too often we've gotten people in here that they're so focused on their thing, even if it takes away from what others are trying to do. And that's a delicate balance you have to...
No, I agree.
Because it's a shared space.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I, we won't drop names here, but you and I both know we've had some tenants that have been a real pain in the ass, man.
Yeah, no, I
that aren't
agree.
serious. It's kind of a hangout for them, and it's like, dude, I'm glad you got a space to go to, but you're taking away from others trying to be serious about it.
Yeah.
And we only have so many places to go. I mean, they're about to shut down Banana Factory, unfortunately.
Right.
Monica's actually going to be in the last art exhibition they're going to have there. I
Oh,
think it's in
nice.
November. She just told me about it earlier. The space in Emmaus, which I've been talking about forever,
Yeah.
which I know you've been closely involved with.
Yeah.
I don't know when they're going to open, but
Well, they're opening soon. They're already mostly through the construction of the artist studios.
how many studios roughly?
A
Couple dozen?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's almost complete.
Good.
Because Jill is actually moving.
And they're going to have retail spaces and mixed use and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to have a theater in there.
Good.
Like for dance and
Yeah.
music.
And when I hear about stuff like that, I think a lot of people in my position would automatically look at that as competition.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't see it as that. I feel like this place, even if we had all the resources in the world to help out artists, we can only help out so many artists.
Right.
We can't do it all.
No, I agree.
That's why I don't celebrate the fact that Banana Factory is being knocked down. I think that hurts the arts throughout the entire Lehigh Valley community.
Agreed.
And I'm actually very happy that Emmaus is doing something because in a lot of ways, Emmaus has way more got its shit together than Allentown when it comes to small business and the arts.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I know they used to.
Yeah,
I
they
know it's a
might
little
have-
different now.
Yeah, maybe they used to, but
I'm not a fan that right there in that right there by the triangle, there's that gaudy ass smoke shop, the vape shop. It's like, come on, man.
Duh, smoke shop.
Yeah, it's like it looks corny.
No, it's stupid.
It's like you need to have it's literally on the corner.
Yeah, but they started really kind of getting into a very artsy community there.
Yeah.
and then it just died. It went away. Like Jill's shop, for example, they were probably one of the main stores on the Triangle. And
Oh, they definitely were.
yeah, and they started bringing in other sort of artsy kind of businesses there, but they didn't last. They opened, and within a year they were closed, which was
Any idea what the reason behind it is?
well. Obviously, COVID had a lot to do with it because foot traffic completely stopped.
Yeah.
And Jill had to lock her doors, even though they worked in the studio
Yep.
there. They had no more foot traffic, and it never came back after that.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some small stuff, but nothing where it made a difference.
And I partially blame places like East and what's happened there on what's going on in Allentown, because I think what they've done in Allentown is it's so lame. Yeah. It's so far away from supporting small business and art, and now they're doing superficial things to make it look like they support art.
Oh, yeah, that's what Easton's doing too.
But it's like Allentown's like the big dog in the yard, and everyone's looking at what they're doing and they're copying, and it's like, don't copy us. We're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Don't copy us, Bethlehem. Don't copy us, Easton. Emmaus, do your own thing. Emmaus, you got the Emmaus Theater.
Yeah.
You got the Emmaus Theater, one of the greatest independent theaters probably on the East Coast for both live shows, comedy, and cinema.
Yeah, sure.
Allentown, I mean, we have the Civic Theater, which is amazing,
Right.
but that's a lasting institution. Like, you would never get a Civic Theater built in the city now.
Right.
And we can do those things.
Well, isn't there a music theater opening up?
There's a music hall, but I'm not going to go into that. But
No.
it's not something I think is gonna. I mean, the benefit to local musicians might be that they'll get some gigs out of it.
Right.
But they're already talking about bringing in Live Nation, Ticketmaster, which is under investigation by the Department of Justice.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah, exactly, right? What they should be doing is like go independent.
Yeah.
Allentown is a perfect sized city.
It is.
Where we can screw a Democrat or Republican for mayor. We can have an independent mayor.
Right.
We can show the world what can be done. It is literally the perfect sized city to influence things. As you can see, we're influencing, I feel, development in the smaller towns and suburbs around Allentown.
Yeah.
And I do partially blame what's happening in Emmaus to the lack of really knowing what they're doing here in Allentown.
Right.
But I'm hoping it comes back. And I think a big part of it is curation.
Yeah.
As artists and people that run an art space, we understand that curation is often looked at as, okay, hanging paintings or, prints on a wall.
Right.
But I like the idea of curation of, we want to pick what kind of businesses we have in our town.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather have, didn't that vape shop replace a bookstore?
Yeah.
That's
it was like, it was.
That's absurd.
Yeah, I know.
That's absurd. How do you go from one extreme to the next? That's where curation is important. Somebody should have said, you know what, that was so necessary to have something like a bookstore there. We need to find the next closest thing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, I get you got to pay bills, but come on, you're really screwing the long-term viability, at least of that little area.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that happened to Jill, and hopefully they can bounce back.
Well, I mean, again, COVID for her was also a very busy time because, she has a huge online business.
Yeah.
And she did very well during COVID.
Yeah, she kills it.
It's
man.
just the storefront kind of died.
Yeah.
And she got out of there because she's getting the space at Juxta Hub.
Yeah.
And, once her lease was up, she never renewed and she moved out. And she's just waiting for them to open, which is going to be relatively soon.
Good. I hope it goes well for her.
Yeah, it should.
You were talking earlier about having to digitize photographic prints, large format.
Film.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Photographic negatives. So for you, what is the biggest difference between working with film versus digital?
Well,
I know it's a loaded question.
No, it is a loaded question, but I love shooting film. I love processing film. I loved printing.
You love playing in the darkroom.
Yeah, it was amazing. The time that I was doing it was just so much fun. I mean, just to see the stuff develop in front of you is
like magic.
Yeah, it is. It really is amazing. But I got into the digital realm very early because it was necessary. for setting up this thing for the company.
For the workflow you were putting together.
Correct. Taking 8x10 film, getting it all processed and then digitized, it was a mess. And the problem with that too is if the shot was not exactly right to lay out on a page, I mean, you were screwed basically.
Yeah.
You had to reshoot it all.
You had no real editing software.
That's correct, because they would shoot a page at a time. You know what I mean? When I got in there, we shot each piece individually.
How often did you find yourself reshooting things in that situation?
On digital?
Yeah.
Not very often.
No, that's good.
No, because the stuff was laid down. You take one shot of one piece.
Yeah.
And
shoot it flat on.
Yeah, you knew how it was going to lay out on the page. So, you have I always had a preconceived notion of how stuff, depending on what the piece was, how it needed to be shot, that kind of thing. The stuff just went like.
Yeah. So you were kind of forced to be an early adopter.
Yes, exactly.
Were you on board for the digital revolution, or were you like, I like
No,
my
I
film?
was. I was, because
I feel like you would've been.
I knew it was going to
Yeah.
just save us a ton of time and a ton of money.
Now, once you dipped your toes into that digital landscape, did you
Never
find yourself?
left.
You never shot film again.
Never shot film.
Never
again.
since.
Nope.
Now, I know you and I have had conversations over the years about how you would love to work in a dark room again. Now, I'm assuming that's more for just like fun, personal projects.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would never ever do any client work.
If you
on
could
film.
if you could do film, what kind of stuff would you like to do again at this point? I'm just curious.
I would like to shoot the models.
A lot of the stuff
on
you do
film.
now.
Yeah.
Why don't you just have a film camera in there while you're doing it? And
I
just
do, but no.
No?
No.
Well, maybe.
I mean, I've got thousands of dollars worth of digital equipment.
Well, I'll say this. Once we actually light that fire under our asses and put together that dark room here,
I know.
which we have.
You won't be able to get me out.
We have a dark room. It's just not. It's not set up currently.
Yeah.
Like we tried it in one space, it didn't work, and we tried another space, but that the space it's in or intended to be in has to be built out.
Right.
And that's time and money, which we just don't have at the moment.
Right.
But you know Matthew Bloom. I know he's another one. He was actually helping us with the dark room in the initial phase, and he was doing the alternative processes and shooting on glass.
Right.
And I mean, just to be able to have that stuff accessible is so cool, man.
Now the stuff that he does too is pretty awesome.
Matthew Bloom's great.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Matthew, we love your work and we think you're super cool. And I mean, maybe you can get back to film one day, but I understand why. I mean, it's a total pain in the ass.
Yeah.
There's so many extra steps, but there is that magic to it.
Yeah. But, once you opened up the print shop here, it turned my life around because, I spent 90% of my time looking at my stuff on a computer screen.
On a screen.
And when I saw that first 40 by 60 print come off the printer.
Which you still have up.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I just fell in love. And now what do I got? About 200 prints inside my studio.
Yeah, now you got yourself a little printer and you're pushing out small ones yourself too, in addition to large ones we're printing together.
Yeah.
And why we did put that print shop together was because of guys like you that there was nowhere to print any. Like where?
Yeah, no, I know.
When did you
not.
last have? Before we started the AG Printworks here at the building,
I was printing my stuff at Got Print online
and having it shipped here.
Yeah, and I mean the stuff was decent, but it's nothing.
It's not fine art.
Yeah, it's nothing compared.
Was there a consistency in the prints you were getting?
Yeah,
that's nice.
There was.
That's good.
They did fairly good work. Everything I have printed was on a standard glossy paper.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but it's not really what I like.
No.
Then I tried this Adorama had his print shop.
One of the great camera shops in Manhattan.
Yeah, they opened up a printing shop, and it was horrible.
I used to get my film negative scanned there when I was living in New York. And shooting.
But the print that they sent me was just horrible.
Really?
I actually sent it back.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
I told them that this is just not acceptable.
Wow.
And it was. I thought it was going to be a place where I was going to be able to get some really good. Being Adorama.
Well, I mean, Adorama, B&H are the two big boys of New York.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, that didn't work out.
That's kind of shocking.
And then when you opened up, I was just, yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Well, the reason I asked about consistency is because when I was doing my print work years ago when we first started the gallery and having to go to different printing places, Dan's Camera, I tried some online sources, there was no consistency for me.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I learned early on with printmaking, especially with digital printmaking, is depending who's printing it, it's going to determine how it looks.
Yeah. Well, it's in the equipment too, because
Of
different
course.
printers,
Of course.
are going to produce different results.
Well, there's this old saying that if you give 10 different directors the same screenplay, you're going to get 10 different movies.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I would apply that same piece of advice to printing.
Right.
I mean, you can give the same print, the same digital file to 10 different printers. They're probably going to make it look 10 different ways.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy leans more to having a blue color cast, and this guy likes a little bit more
That's
warm.
exactly right. Yeah.
Like I've spent time with artists who are trying to reproduce prints of their artwork, and oftentimes, if possible, I'd have them bring in the original to match it the best I could.
Yeah.
But I also tell them, like, it's really up to you what you want to do here.
Right.
Do you want to? Is your intention to make it as exact to the original as possible?
No, one would hope.
One would hope, but at the same time, you can do whatever you want.
That's absolutely.
You could do whatever you want. You can completely change the colors. You can do what's called a remark, where you print it and they can add to it.
Yeah.
And then we use the papers from Epson, the Signature Series, which were actually meant to be signed by artists, which I love.
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean,
it's great stuff.
I'll tell you what, man. And like even early on when we started this print shop again, which was very much to kind of answer that need for artists in the area and photographers in the area. One of the things we had talked about was that in addition to doing prints, we would love to grow it to be a publishing division.
Right.
And I know you've done a lot of magazine work over the years, catalog work, which I know you did some, but not as extensively as you just told me.
Right.
Your work is so suited for prints.
Yes.
And I didn't just tell you this to get you as a customer to make
I
some.
know.
I know.
I know.
I mean, it's like, the whole Ansel Adams idea of photography is really photography when it's a print.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes the actual image.
Yeah.
And I think that's been partially lost in this digital age.
Yeah.
Instagram and social media and things like that, we're always pushing these images and on to the next thing. It's like, I got the printer that I did because it has archival pigment inks.
Yep.
So not only can I do archival prints for museums and galleries and artists, but we're producing high quality prints for artists and collectors, which are meant to last at minimum 200 years.
Yeah. No,
and that's more than double a human lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's like
I know.
To us, it's not about the commercial value of it. And I mean, you need to do a book sometime.
Yeah. I know.
You have to. And hopefully that's going to be one of the future steps. So before we get to that, is this going to be your first solo exhibition?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about the solo exhibit and why you wanted to put it on the way you did?
Okay. Well, it's based on the last 10 years of being here at the Alternative Gallery and Cigar Factory. And it's all about working with local talent, models, dancers, things like that. And it's kind of a throwback to what I originally started doing, was depending on local people, local friends and family or whatever, to get somebody in the studio to shoot. And it's always been something I'd love to do. Working with local people, a lot of them don't have any experience being in the studio. And some of them have some experience, and some of them are actually amateur models and models that were already moving in to agency. So there's a really wide range of people that I've worked with. And this show basically is kind of a snapshot of that 10 years. And it doesn't have all the models I worked with in there, obviously, because I would have to have 600 prints in
At
there.
least, yeah.
So,
and you have, roughly about 60 prints in this?
I have 60 pieces.
That's a huge show.
Yeah, it is.
Because like you and I have been looking into potentially, because you need to be in New York. You need to get in some New York galleries, and I've been looking for stuff. And a lot of these galleries I'm finding, they'll have like an exhibition, it's like 5 pieces.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
And here you have
60. Yeah, I know.
in a historic hotel, which is badass,
Yeah.
by the way. So yeah, continue. I'm curious.
So it was more of, you kind of pushed me into this. And
Oh, so now it's my fault.
it is your fault. Really.
Okay,
but
I'll accept that.
But it was a good fault because a lot of my stuff was never really printed. It was kind of put online, in various places.
The models share it on their social media.
Yeah, and that's kind of the extent of
Yeah.
where my stuff is going these days. I'm not that I really wanted to go anywhere.
You just got stuck in that loop.
Yeah, but the thing is I've been published over and over and over again. Like I had pieces in just about every magazine. The only one magazine I never really got into was Vogue, which is the one I really wanted to get into from day one.
Listen, Vogue.
Yeah, right. But all that aside, you're the one that kind of pushed me to get my stuff out there, get it seen, because I don't know why.
Oh, your stuff is incredible, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I mean, I want to stay on this topic, but I have another question that's going to kind of link in and hopefully continues that conversation on a further path. Is the human figure has been photographed countless times,
Right.
by so many people.
Right.
What attracts you to working with models, and how do you strive to make your images unique?
Well,
and that's essentially what you're going to have on display here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The thing with me is I was always looking to develop a style. And back in the day when I started shooting working with models, Richard Avedon, Irving Penn, Helmut Newton, guys like that, those are the guys I looked at and I looked up to. I was fresh out of high school, basically, and I see these guys getting published all over the place, and it just blew my mind. Some of the
They were like rock stars.
Yeah, they were rock stars, and like I was saying before, that Avedon was in every issue of Vogue. He's had spreads everywhere, and his stuff just blew me away. And I wanted to develop a style, and I think what wound up happening was that late '70s to the end of the 80s era of Vogue fashion kind of is where my mind went, and it's where it's been. So when you look at my stuff today, it looks like it could be in Vogue in 1985.
You know what style you like, and you've stuck to it.
I have, yeah. And
which I think is a good thing.
And I very rarely veered. I mean, I do, occasionally do some crazy stuff.
Sure.
But what I started also getting into recently, in the last few years, was digital art in my photographs.
Yeah.
And the show actually has some of that in
The
there.
Painted series, is that what you call it?
Yeah, well, there's a few different series, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's been something I've been playing with the last few years.
And I liked how you described it to me, where you said you've always wanted to do this with actual painting on a print.
Yeah.
But you were always too afraid of messing up the print.
Exactly right.
So you held yourself back.
Yeah.
And now that you have the digital tools, you're doing what you've always wanted to do.
Right, exactly.
It's amazing.
I mean, I've been using Photoshop since probably 1990.
Wow, it's right when it first came out.
Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah, like I said, I got into the digital
early
era
adopter.
very early.
Yeah.
One of the first things I did was I went to Monterey, California, for a 4-day seminar in Photoshop.
Wow.
I learned so much.
That's where Adobe is headquartered, right?
I don't know.
I think somewhere out there.
But I learned so much in that seminar. And just, I was always the kind of person, especially in Photoshop, that I just did. I didn't worry about what it was going to do. I just did it and experimented with all the tools and all the, filters and all that stuff. And I learned it. I learned it quickly, and I've gotten really good at it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I know you know all the commands, all the shortcuts. I mean, you're right on top of it. The ruler's not on. Boom, hit this.
Yeah.
So this show, which is actually this Thursday, September 26th, the exhibition is going to be on display until the end of the year, December 31st.
Correct.
Opening reception is this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. At the Americus Hotel. That's 555 Hamilton Street. We'll have all this information in the show notes. Americus Hotel, 6 in Hamilton. You can't miss it. And maybe we'll try to squeeze in an artist talk, we were thinking.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range. Not on the opening night, but maybe as a bonus in November, December, we'll What do you think about that, right?
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. So this show that you're having this Thursday, it's kind of a culmination of all these things we've been discussing.
That's correct. Yeah, it's got some fashion. It's got some glamour. It's got some digital art. It has dance. Fine art. It's got pretty much a full range of the stuff that I've been doing over the last 10 years. But
and you got the prints exactly as you wanted it, because you and I, what you didn't print yourself, you and I printed together.
Right.
So everything is exactly. And even though we think we know how it's going to look, the print comes out and we're like, good God, this is gorgeous.
Well, you know just as well as I do that when you get an image from me, it's ready to print.
Oh my God. You have no idea how much I wish everyone had files like you have files.
Yeah.
They're just ready to go. Because, you understand the last step in the process, and you know how to work backwards.
I understand the printing process.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the printing business for a long time.
Yeah. I get
especially printing offset.
Yeah.
And web printing, for catalog and things like that. You always have to be aware of the printer you're using and what the result is going to be. And, they'll send you proofs, and, you have to look at those proofs and say, no, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. And you correct them. So I know that process. And, especially in the offset business, the ink, when it hits that paper, it gets very heavy.
Yeah.
So we always backed off on, exposure of the file so that when it got to press, it looked beautiful.
And that is so useful. And that's where the professional experience really makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, when I was first starting to print my work, I don't know, 15 years ago at this point, printing my work actually changed the way I was taking photos.
Yeah.
In simple ways too, like, to give yourself extra room in the framing of it.
Yeah.
Because things get cut off.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where artists working here in the print shop, it's actually kind of changed how they make their art. Maybe not stylistically, but little technical aspects of it. Like, I can't tell you how many paintings have been brought to us that people want digitized, and their signature is like at the very, very, very corner of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're giving us no room at all to work with this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good chance that you're going to lose part of your signature. And in some cases, we just crop it and just recommend they sign either the print themselves or in a border, like you've signed your borders here.
Yeah. Well, speaking of crops, I found that when I'm printing stuff, that crops are just like gold. And, when I look at an image on a screen and I'm looking at the full image on the screen and I'm going, when this goes to print, it would look so much nicer if this was cropped down tighter. And you know what I mean? And you get results that are just beautiful.
A different image.
I mean, there are so many images that I have where I've literally cut heads off because just the core of the image was so good.
Yeah.
In the torso area, for example, that the head didn't really matter.
You want the focus to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that first print you and I did, that was a crop.
Yes, it was. That was a big crop, actually. Yeah.
And we printed like the largest possible size.
Yeah, and it's still sharp as a tack,
why
right?
not, right? No, it's amazing. And I know you've done, we used to do the open houses pre-pandemic. We would do them once a month. Now we just kind of do them randomly because our schedule.
Right.
And I know when you were doing those, you would actually have little photography groups and meetups in your studio.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, like what you would do there?
Yeah, was an online thing called Meetup. I had a group, and we would literally every open house we would have a meetup, session, and people would come in and either just talk about technique or talk about lighting setups, and we actually had models come in also to shoot. We would do all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, like typically every month you would have a model and then invite people to come in and photograph them.
Yeah.
And you were essentially, in some ways, a teacher.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Do you like teaching?
I don't.
No?
I don't.
That's kind of why you backed away from that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not good at that kind of thing.
And I think now, like doing that, you don't get to focus on your own work in an open house.
Yeah.
You don't get to talk about your own stuff enough, which is a big reason why we have the open houses, to kind of show off what everyone's been working on.
Right.
And it's nice to host things every now and then. But yeah, I feel you on that. Like, yeah, you just wanted to pull back, I guess, and
Yeah,
focus on your own thing.
it's kind of a thing that I feel like I'm imposing my style on them. You know what I mean?
Because not how you do something isn't necessarily how somebody else should
Exactly.
do it.
I mean, I know so many so many photographers that would, bring a model into the studio and set up 8 lights. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What do you need all that for?
Overkill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 95% of my work is with one light.
Well, I think it's a big pitfall with both filmmaking and photography is we get too focused on the gear.
Yeah.
That's why I love those YouTube videos where someone gets like a crappy camera. Like I've actually been thinking, because I have like floppy disk cameras that are like not even like not even 1 megapixel, right?
Right.
I was like, how cool would it be to do a whole like series of that, which you then enlarge so you can make prints and stuff like that.
Right.
But the total like lo-fi, just like very pixelated quality. Like there's an art to that too.
Yeah.
Like I know it was a transitional medium of media.
Yeah, sure.
But artistically, you can use it for a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how have people responded to your work over the years and even more so recently, especially now that you're printing stuff? Because you're going out and you're vending and you're showing at different events. What's been the response to your work?
People love it. I mean, it's like I never show my stuff really. And
It's been in the last year you really just started showing.
Yeah, when you see this stuff in print, it's just a whole nother ball game.
It makes it look a lot more serious.
Yeah, not even that. It's just that I mean, I look at it and I go, yeah, this is so cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like I'm flipping through pages on my screen,
Sure.
just going through images. When you see it hanging on the wall, it's a whole nother thing. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I just love it. And it was all your fault. So.
It's the best kind of blame to accept.
It is, yeah.
I think that's part of my job is to push people that I find are doing cool things to do as much as they can with it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're in this routine now where you do a lot of the model shoots for fun. You have your product photography, which is kind of your main thing.
Right.
Bread and butter wise at least. And I think you probably would have been content to just keep doing that.
Right.
But I was like, man, your stuff is so much cooler than that.
Yeah.
It really is. And it deserves to be seen. And I know you did cocktails and collecting last year at the Allentown Art Museum. You just did art in the park. I know you've done some vending in Easton and you're got some other upcoming stuff. And, I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I know you're having a hard time connecting with the audiences here in the Valley.
Yeah.
Like they love your work. They say they love it. They say all these glowing things about it, but then they walk away empty-handed.
Well, my feeling is I don't know if my stuff is either just not right for this audience. I don't know. I've gotten such good response from people, like you said, but I think the biggest thing is the fact that they don't understand collecting photography.
Yeah.
You go to somebody that's got a painting that they spent, X amount of hours or days or weeks or whatever creating.
Yeah.
Then you got me over here with a photographic print.
Yeah. An original versus a print, that's the way they look at it.
Correct.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's just a mental block that they have about photography collecting.
Yeah.
But what goes into those photographs from the minute I pick up my camera till the time it hits the printer is a massive amount of work.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
I certainly understand that.
yeah, no, I know you do.
Yeah, and I hope others do in the conversations you have with them.
Yeah.
Because like we just did art in the park, and there were like people had told you had by far the best photography there.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even know what to put as second.
Yeah.
That's how far and above you were from everything else. And it's like the photography I did see selling was like the most generic junk ever.
Yeah.
Like there's this one guy that just photographs stores. I mean, how often do you see that?
Yeah.
Every tourist trap city you go to, like you see that stuff. Every like art fair, and it's like I'm so grateful you're here in our building because you are a serious photographer. Like before this, I asked you if you wanted to be described as a fine art photographer. You said no, just photographer, which I totally get. But I look at a lot of your work as fine art photography.
I think I see myself mostly as a portrait photographer, even in the fashion work, things of that sort. It's fashion portraiture.
Yeah.
To
I
me.
just see that as a subgenre of fine art photography.
Well, yeah,
which is what I mean by it.
Right.
And the point I'm trying to make is, like, we have other photographers in the building. We've had many, many, many photographers over the years, but I've never really latched on to any of them.
Yeah.
And the reason why, and no offense to any of them, but I'm just going to be honest, like, they are what I refer to as J.C. Penney photographers.
Yeah.
Like, they do these family portraits, very commercial portraits, which I get there's a need for, but it's not what I'm trying to support. Anyone can do that. There's no real heart in it. What you do is so different.
Yeah, I think my work is very unique to this area in particular, because I have a million friends that are photographers, and nobody I know even, or I've seen, puts out the kind of work that I put out as far as stylistically wise. I mean, a lot of them do a lot of glamour work, a lot of art nude and things like that, and it's very generic to me.
I agree. I feel like so many of these photographers are just doing what they expect to see somewhere else.
I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of these guys are really talented people.
Technically.
Yes.
But I don't think there's any underlying style to what they do.
Yeah. Stylistic wise, I think I'm very, because I haven't seen anybody producing work the way I do.
No, and that's why I've been pushing you to do this, because I think it needs to be seen. You know, it's unfortunately to kind of get the attention of people is a slow process.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take you a few years to really, break that ice here in the Valley. And this upcoming show on Thursday at the Americus Hotel at the Golden Era Gallery, which is actually a satellite gallery of ours, the Alternative Gallery.
Right.
A lot of your models are going to be there, a lot of our artistic friends and just friends and family in general. I think you're having a great turnout. I think like that's the biggest impact we can have right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think really when I say we, I mean like the Alternative Gallery, me, everyone that is a big fan of you, we want to see you get into New York. Because I think your stuff would crush it in New York. Yeah. I think the New York industry would understand your stuff. And really quickly, going back to what you said about the whole print and original thing that we were talking about, I'm not going to say who the collector was, but I had a collector come here, I think it was last year, almost 2 years ago. You think you know the story I'm going to tell here. And this collector was like kind of aghast that I would start a fine art print shop to make reproductions of paintings. And they couldn't wrap their mind around it because to them, it devalued the original. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you're looking at this totally wrong. You want a piece of art to be rare so only one person can have it and can have the only copy, and it makes it worth more money.
Right.
I'm more interested in the cultural value of things, societal value of things. Yeah. And if something is valuable, why would you not want to make it accessible to people? And the conversation that we had with this person was so staunchly against prints. They left the print shop with a print, one of your prints.
Yeah, I know.
And I know you know who I'm talking about. We're not going to say their name.
No, I know.
But that was like, for me, that was an incredible moment.
Yeah.
Because that to me, it was like trying to reshape the thoughts of these people that I think is an incorrect thought.
Yeah.
Like, I know you want to do limited edition prints, which I'm all about, but I often tell, like, artists, I'm like, if a print sells well, why would you limit it?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think when it's limited, it values the print more, especially in photographs.
That's more of the collector. I think that's where they're going to step in on that.
The same holds true in lithography.
Well, but see, that is more necessary for a limited run of prints, because with litho, that first print is the sharpest.
Right.
Then every print starts to degrade a little bit.
No, I agree. However, once that series is printed,
done.
That stone gets
done. Yeah.
Cut.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, digital photography, you're literally deleting a file.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily deleting it, but it won't be printed ever again.
For a limited series, like a limited print, let's say you do 25 copies of a print, you're going to delete the original?
I'm not going to ever print it again.
Okay.
I might not delete it.
Yeah.
But it will never be printed
okay.
again.
That's good. Yeah, don't delete it.
No.
Because what happens when we make a book and, sorry, I got to go track down a collector with a print and scan it or photograph it.
Exactly.
So, going back to like the New York thing, like, I mean, do you see that as like an essential next step for this journey you now find yourself on?
I don't know, possibly.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm definitely exploring.
Nice.
I mean, I have a piece going into a show in Easton at the end of the month. it's going to be at the State Theater.
Cool. Great space.
Yeah.
So you're in two iconic spaces, one month after the next.
Yeah.
Here in September, you're in the Americus Hotel, literally in the National Register of Historic Places, one of the most interesting buildings in the city of Allentown, and then you're in the State Theater in Easton.
Yeah, it's for a large works exhibition.
Oh, it's cool because I know for the holidays they always do like a small work show.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did a large one too.
There's a large.
That's really
one,
cool.
Yeah, so it's not a huge piece, but it's like a 20 by 24.
Great.
And I've got something in the works in Brooklyn also.
Fantastic.
At a gallery in Brooklyn.
How often do you go to New York? I mean, aside, I know you have family and stuff there, but just to go to New York to dick around, how often?
Not very.
No?
No.
Maybe we should start doing that.
Mainly,
like just doing a group trip with some of the AG artists.
Mainly going to visit my daughter or my sisters or whatever.
Yeah. We got to get up there and focus on Peter's travels.
Yeah, right.
Artwork.
Exactly.
Go to ICP, see how it's changed since.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They still uptown? Because that's where I used to go.
Well, like, I know it's gotten larger.
It was like 79th Street and 5th Avenue.
Yeah, I know the one there's Midtown, and then there's one that's uptown too. Yeah.
Well, there's one that's in Tribeca.
Tribeca,
Soho,
yeah, downtown, not Midtown. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Soho,
yeah, downtown. Yeah.
I used to go to the one uptown, snooty one.
So what kind of classes did you take there?
All kinds. There was a lot of color theory. There was stuff on printing, like, photographic printing, not
darkroom
digital
printing.
Darkroom printing.
Yeah.
But yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's all very more technical than anything because although I knew kind of what I was doing, I didn't know the reasoning behind it. And that's kind of why I went to NYU and I went to ICP to get, the knowledge of
fill in those gaps.
Why I was doing what I was doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
So for some young kid or teenager out there who has a desire to strike it out there in photography but doesn't have the means to maybe go to college, what kind of first steps would you recommend they take?
Oh, my God. The way I've always done things in my life is just do it. It sounds stupid, but it is. It's, don't be afraid of doing anything. Because when I got in the studio, my first studio with my camera, I had no idea what I was doing. I bought lights. I didn't know how to use them. And you just practice.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I mean, it's just like playing a guitar or whatever.
Yeah.
You practice, you learn,
Bring in your friends, use them as models.
Yeah.
Find some people online, social media. Hey, I got this studio. You want to come get some shots?
Yeah. After a while, I mean, even before I came here, even when I was still in Connecticut, I really didn't have to look for models because 99% of them came to me, and it's because they saw my work and they said, this guy is probably worth shooting with.
Yeah.
So, that's been kind of a good thing for me.
How many models roughly do you think you've worked with?
God, I can't even tell.
Thousands.
No, I wouldn't say thousands.
No?
No, it's probably in the mid, like hundreds.
Really?
500 or so,
Wow.
600.
I assumed you would have had 200-300 at least since you've been here. It's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. You've had a lot of beautiful people roam these hallways.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
Peter likes to bring beautiful people through.
No, I like to, create, and and I, to what my thinking is, what's going to be a great final image.
Yeah.
It's because the people I bring in here is all kind of for personal work. It's not stuff that I'm paying. It's all collaboration work. I mean, I don't pay the models; they don't pay me. But we just go in and we work.
You're interested in working together.
Yeah, and
nice.
we get stuff done.
But it's a relief to hear that, though.
It is, yeah.
There needs to be more of that.
Yeah.
Now, like, what motivates you and inspires you these days? Like, I know it seems like you have this newfound direction and inspiration that you're working with. Like, what's at the center of that?
Lately, it's only been printing and framing. That's all I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I know you've been framing a lot, man. You must be recovering from all that framing.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Broke a couple frames. Yeah. We had to reprint a couple things because things never go right, and that's one of the things you got to keep in mind, especially. Yeah. And you're a veteran at this, and we're still going to make those mistakes.
No,
it's gonna happen from time to time.
I know.
And I think that's what's important for people to realize, especially early on when they're starting.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think I'm really getting into this art on print.
Yeah.
his digital art.
Digital art aspect incorporated with your photography. I think it's great. Like, there's no rules, man. Some people
No,
might think,
exactly.
oh, you're a fashion photographer. You can't be doing this. Like,
Yeah, no.
come on, you can do whatever you want.
So,
There's no rules.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
To do.
Oh, and it's blown the doors off, man. So, like, now you just entered, like, a whole new universe with your work.
Yeah, I want to get out of digital art and get more into painting. Like I mentioned before.
So now that you've done that, you're feeling more comfortable.
Because I think I can take this digital stuff that I've done and convert it to paint.
Well, and there you have an original then.
Yeah.
For the collectors out there.
Yeah. Well, the digital stuff is still very much collectible.
Sure.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with you wholeheartedly.
I think more work goes into a digital piece than does so for a painted piece.
I mean, it depends what it is.
True.
It depends what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something I think I'm going to pursue because
You should, man.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to do because I've always enjoyed drawing and painting and things like that. It's always been since I was a little kid.
It's time to get messy, Peter.
Yeah, I know.
It's time to get real messy.
But now that I have a printer in my studio, I can do stuff on a small scale to test. If I decide I really like it, I can get the big prints done with you.
Yeah.
And, work on them from there.
It's working out great, man.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want the audience, the listeners, to know about your show before we head out here?
Just to come down and to the opening, it should be a good time.
Support it, and if you can't make the opening, it's you can go into the Americus Hotel. It's open 24 hours a day. It's overlooking that beautiful lobby of theirs.
Yeah.
And even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, don't think you can go and mess with the stuff because they got cameras and there's always people there watching it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go and no one's there, staff-wise, just be mindful. And all the prints are for sale, correct?
Most of them are.
Most of them are for sale.
A lot of there's a whole big section that's all just exhibition only.
Yeah.
I mean, if they somebody wants to buy one of them, it's always open to do so.
And we could do custom sizes too if they want something different.
Exactly. The prices that are on the pieces right now are based on the image that's there.
Yeah.
But yes, sizes can definitely be arranged.
Yeah, and it's a very homegrown show. Everything shot and printed here in the building.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
At our satellite gallery.
Yeah.
You don't get much more homegrown than that, man.
Nope.
So it's been a lot of fun working on this project together with you.
It has been.
We have printed
amazing.
a lot of stuff the last few months.
Oh, yeah.
We thought we were so ahead of it. Like, we're printing like 5 months out, and it's like a couple days before we hang.
Yeah, we're still printing.
Well, we're hanging tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you were framing stuff today. So it's
Yeah.
like true artist, man. True artist. Because if you're not doing it at the last second, you're not really trying.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty amazing experience.
No, and we're happy to have you here, man. And we hope you're here for at least another 10 years while this place continues to grow.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to tell the fine people before we head out?
Thank you.
And once again, we've been chatting with Peter Italiano, a photographer from the Lehigh Valley. Peter has been working as a professional photographer for over 30 years, focusing mainly on fashion and glamour and having his images published in various magazines around the world. You can view his work by visiting his website, peteritalianophotography.com. And once again, his exhibition opening is this Thursday, September 26th at the Golden Era Gallery at the Americus Hotel. Peter, thanks so much for being on the Art Bazaar, man.
Thank you.
This is a great first episode of Season 2.
Excellent.
Getting our artists from the building here in on it. And if you're enjoying the Art Bazaar podcast, please help us grow by liking and subscribing to the podcast. We want to reach a worldwide audience to help bring attention to all of the amazing creators and unique folks we bring on. Just like Peter, they certainly deserve it. And that's all for now. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time on Art Bazaar.